Hello everyone, thanks for joining us here on Horizon. I'm Rob McClendon. Well, owning a home is the anchor of the American dream, but for some it can still be out of reach. And that's where affordable housing comes in. Middle-class homes that don't make you house poor, yet give you something to call your own. As our Blaine Singletary shows us, while Oklahoma has some of the most affordable housing in the nation, it still needs more.
Oklahoma is facing something of a housing crisis, and it's mainly affecting those who need a home the most.
Well, we know we need over 66,000 units of affordable housing by 2020. About 2/3 of those would be for home ownership, and then roughly 1/3 of that would be needed for rentals. And that's in the next 5 years, so it's a lot.
That's Andrea Freimeyer, board president of the Oklahoma Coalition of Affordable Housing. She's one of many behind the statewide Housing Needs Assessment unveiled at the 2016 Housing Summit. Affordable housing is meant for those who make 66% or less of an area's median income. These include single mothers, the elderly, disabled, and people just looking to get their first home.
There's a lot of people that work, but even though they're working and they're working full-time, they're rent overburdened or they're kind of one paycheck away from poverty or homelessness. Everybody deserves just a safe, affordable housing unit.
Getting these low-income earners into homes is a benefit unto itself. But that's just the tip of the chimney, says Dennis Shockley, executive director of the Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency, or OFA for short.
It's very important. When you build affordable housing, it not only helps the family that moves into their new home, be it an apartment or a single family dwelling, but it spins through the economy. When you build a home of any kind, you're employing carpenters, plumbers, roofers, framers. Housing is economic development.
With such a big pool of prospective homeowners, you'd think home builders would be all over this, right? Well, not exactly. And it all comes down to the three most important things about real estate: location, location, location.
There's a difference between need and demand. I remember the mayor of Holdenville many years ago telling me, he said, you know, we have a huge need for housing in Holdenville, Oklahoma, but there's not any demand for it. And that's why developers won't go out into very rural areas and build unless they have a contract to build.
And let's not forget one of the most important things about business: money. Again, Andrea Freimeyer.
Developers without some sort of incentive normally are not developing affordable housing options. They're trying to maximize their returns and they're building high-end market rate.
The financial incentives are there, but Freimeyer says they just don't go far enough.
Things like the low-income housing tax credit that OFA administers, and then the Oklahoma Affordable Housing Act that was passed in 2014, those are the monies that we use to build affordable housing throughout the state, and it's limited. We just don't have enough money to build a lot of units.
So with most of the housing needed in far-flung rural areas and the fact that there's not much money in it for developers, it doesn't seem like this crisis is going to find a solution in time. But look hard enough, and you'll find some home builders bucking the trend.
I was working with a lady. We had bought some rental houses together, and she came to me one day and said, hey, you know those apartments over there that are low-income housing? You can do that exact same housing, but you can build single-family houses with that same financial stream. And I said, well, I build single-family houses, and I manage single-family houses. That sounds perfect.
Lance Windell is the head of LW Development, and he won't deny that filling these housing needs is a challenge.
Building in rural Oklahoma is difficult. One of the things that we see a lot in rural Oklahoma, especially when the price of oil is up, is that all those folks that would normally be your plumber or your framer or your electrician has got a good job in the oil field to build at the speed and the price that I need to build at to be successful. The local trades just can't support it, and it's not their fault.
But the way he sees it, he still has to get the job done. And that's led to some rather unpopular decisions.
Let's take Ponca City needs houses. I've got to come to Ponca City and build 10 to 20 houses at a time for me to hit my economy of scale. And the local trades just aren't able to support that. And so I have to import labor.
Those dozens of houses could tie up a local contractor for months. But after he gets that workforce lined up, Windell says that's when things get much easier.
You go into a part of, let's take Ardmore, Oklahoma, the east side of town. It's not the nicer part of town, but a lot of times there are a lot of vacant lots over there. And those vacant lots are not doing anyone any favors, but you know what they already have? They already have a concrete or asphalt street in front of them. There's already a sewer line, there's already a water line. So instead of us tearing up a farmer's field and building new houses, we're going to places that it is standing by ready for a house to be built.
The Terra Estates here in Enid are another example of that. Wendell says developments like these, built on existing infrastructure, save a ton on utilities, since they're essentially free. And when new homes come in, they can gradually change the face of the neighborhood at large.
When you go build that new house on that block, the guy on the same block who maybe hasn't mowed his yard as much as he needs to, he kind of looks at it and goes, hey, my neighborhood's coming up. Maybe I need to get on the bandwagon because look, my property values are about to come up.
So while this anchor of the American dream might be running into the pillars of capitalism, it's the hope of those at the Housing Summit that affordable housing can be seen as an investment in the future of a town's economy and its people. Again, Dennis Shockley.
We need to get the word out, and that's part of the job of this housing needs assessment. This will be a tool that developers can use across the state and go where they can build and sell houses.
Now when we return, we look at the role workforce plays in helping people attain the American dream of home ownership.